Today we're going to highlight a new release from a Swedish micro brand called Tuseno, and this is their nicest sport watch release to date. I think it looks sharp. We're going to talk about the pros, we're going to talk about the cons, we're going to focus in on the details, and I'm going to try to do my best to be unbiased and objective as we highlight this Shellback from Tuseno. Now, I look at this and it's the right size in my opinion. It's just shy of 40 millimeters in diameter, which, it's refreshing to see in the micro brand scene. A lot of times we get watches that are getting to be pretty large, and a lot of us crave the more traditional sport sizes. So I'm pleased to report that this one looks nice and proportional. And although I'm kind of a bigger guy, bigger individual with 7.25 inch wrists, you guys can see it looks really sharp. There's a lot of light play, and there is nothing kind of off scale about this design when it comes to the proportion, when it comes to the width of the ceramic bezel insert or the size of the markers and the sandwich style dial. Really, this is very pleasant. And here's the icing on the cake, in my opinion. It's not an homage, it's an original design. And that seems to be the stumbling block for a lot of micro brands is, they want to play the safe route. They want to go with the sales of, doing an homage to an existing design from another brand. And honestly, I'm not here to bash homages, but it takes some strength, to do that. It takes some guts, and it's refreshing because it helps the consumer market be more varied. And so I always appreciate it when a brand comes out with an original design, and it's nice. It has the specs, it has the details, it has the execution. And one of my favorite features about this one will be the bracelet. We have full articulation in this bracelet. So you get a very nice drape on wrist. You get a lot of light play coming off of those brushed surfaces. There's high polished chamfered edges that also aid in the light play and the visual interest. And each one of these links, is a separate piece of stainless steel, and they are connected with a screw system as opposed to a pin and tube system or a split pin system. So that is nice to see. Now, here's the thing. There's going to be a couple changes from this prototype. This is a sample watch to the production version, and I'm really happy about the first one. We have a protruding center link here on this bracelet. And honestly, it might look a little bit too long, and it effectively lengthens the lug-to-lug dimension and could put it out of the range of comfort for some individuals that prefer a smaller lug-to-lug dimension. So I'm pleased to report on the production version, we're going to have an inverted center link with the connecting link in between that center link and the rest of the full articulating bracelet, and I think that's going to be very nice. And in my time with these watches, I've got to say the bracelet has reminded me of a Zenith Dayfi Classic 41 that I had hands-on with, that I got to review, that I was extremely impressed with. In fact, that watch is still on my short list. Like, it's a watch I want to buy and own and enjoy in the rotation. And it just had a marvelous level of light play, not a lot of polish on the watch, but a lot of brushwork. And it was just dazzling. And I'm getting the same type of feel here with this Tuseno Shellback. It carries a lot of light play, and it is comfortable. So that's nice. I had to take out 4 links to make it fit on my 7.25 inch wrist. So really, there's quite a few links. And if you have larger wrists, I'm sure you're actually probably going to have to take out links if you were to order one of these. Now that reminds me, the pre-order is starting on August 12th. And if you pre-order the watch at the price of $649, you can opt for either color, the blue or the black. The blue is a vertically brushed blue. It looks very sharp, has a blue ceramic bezel insert. And then the black is a high gloss enamel finish. So it's also very sharp with a black ceramic bezel insert. You can get a no date or a date. And if you pre-order, you'll get a Tropic strap included and a NATO strap included. So you're getting the value there. I think it's nice considering the size, considering the details, and we'll still continue here with the review of the watch. But if you miss the pre-order and you decide you want to buy it, the price goes up to about $800 and you don't get the additional strap. So just be aware of that. And there will be a link in the description to the pre-order, to the page for Tuseno, for those of you that are interested. Now, continuing with the review here, let's go in on the dial on a macro level and take a look at the detail work displayed. Now, I will say, I like what's going on here. It's a little bit different from what's on the market. And again, that's a refreshing thing. But we have a sandwich style construction. If you look on the outside edge of each one of these holes, one of these markers, you guys can see a faint silver printing, which looks good. It adds a little bit of weight to the overall look. So they're not quite maxi markers, but they feel substantial, they feel proportional. And if you buy a date variation, the date is at the 6 o'clock position. And really it blends in very nicely with the rest of the sandwich markers. And I know it's not the case, but it almost appears like the date is set at the same level as the rest of the sandwich style, the lower level of the sandwich style markers, which again, kind of helps it feel a little bit more cohesive as a design. So I like that. Now, if we look on the outside here of the enamel portion or the vertically brushed portion of the dial, you guys can see a printed railroad track, which generally you find on vintage designs. And I will say one of the strengths of the Shellback is the excellent low light luminescence. So you guys can see the hands are loomed, the sandwich style markers obviously are loomed, the railroad track is printed BGW9, and we also have all the indexing found in the ceramic bezel insert that's also loomed, so very satisfying in low light. And I mentioned this in my first impressions video, but I always like seeing BGW9. I like the cyan tone, but really in natural light, it's white. It's desaturated. It provides great contrast to the other elements of the dial and of the watch. And so it looks a little bit more strong and refined, I think, than the greenish tinge that you'll get sometimes with Lumibrite or with C3 from Superluminova. So I like this in low light. I like the elements here. I like the thinness. I like the finish. I like the signed crown. I like the coin edging found here on the grip of the bezel. And I also like that chamfered flared edge. It adds, again, a little bit more visual interest in addition to that lovely bracelet. And so anyways, let's continue here. Let's look at the Caseback briefly. You guys can see it's an engraved Caseback, and this one is a prototype. So you will see sample written on one of the sides in between some of the holes for the screw down Caseback, but nice and deep, no sharp edges or anything. I like the fact that that logo is also found on the crown, the signed crown. So that looks sharp. And then if we look at the clasp, just briefly, let's talk about this. It's going to be exactly the same as what you will find on some strap code bracelets, some other micro brands. It's signed, it's milled, it's brushed, and you do have a push button down at the bottom portion of the clasp, which if you engage, it engages the micro extension system. So you're going to be able to lengthen the travel of the bracelet on the fly if you go diving, or maybe you're I don't know, about to go cross-country skiing or something, and you want to put the watch over an extra layer of clothing. Whatever it is, you're going to be able to do that here with this adjustable clasp. Now let's talk about negative elements or aspects of this watch, because I full-heartedly believe that no watch is perfect. I mean, even the watch I'm wearing today, which is the Seamaster Professional ceramic white dial, has a few drawbacks. And that's the case here with the Tuseno Shellback. The big one that bothers me is the anti-reflective treatment on this double-domed sapphire crystal. Now you guys can see here in natural light, I mean, the watch carries a lot of visual interest, a lot of pop and play, but almost to a distracting level, because the anti-reflective treatment is only found on the underside of that double-domed crystal. And so, I mean, sometimes it can be distracting and you can come into legibility issues. Now I will say in natural light, like let's say here, the room that I'm filming in, which is mostly lit from a window off to my right, you don't see any legibility issues. You really don't see any reflections. So it's not a problem all the time, but in some instances, I just crave a more clear application. And I seem to say that with a lot of brands, not just with micro brands or with Tuseno here. I say it almost with every brand outside of Omega does a great job. Breitling does a great job. IWC does a great job. I mean, there are a few brands that really bring their A game in terms of the anti-reflective treatment application, and this one has room for improvement. Now, the other thing that bothers me, but it only bothers me on two variations of this watch. Again, you can buy this with the gloss black enamel dial or the vertically brushed blue dial, date or no date. And if you opt for the no date, you do get a ghost date in the crown with the movement selection here, which is just something, as a crazy watch enthusiast, I never like to see. So if I were to pre-order this, I would pre-order with the date variation. Again, I think it looks great with the execution at the 6 o'clock position, just because I don't want the ghost date. And so be aware of that if you're interested, if that would bother you. And let's talk about the movement selection real quick. It's one that I have absolutely no experience with. It is a Ronda R150 caliber. Now it's going to be very similar to an ETA 2824 in terms of dimension, in terms of execution when it comes to the finish. It looks pretty basic, and it will have a rotor, with bidirectional winding. We do have hacking. It is a 4 hertz beat frequency, so 28,800 beats per hour. But it will be 0.2 millimeters thinner in overall profile, and it will come with 2 extra hours of power reserve over a 2824 or a Sellita SW200. And so that brings the power reserve up to 40 hours, and that is nice to see. My only thing here is I base my opinions over my experience in the hobby, and I just have no experience with this Ronda. In fact, I didn't know they made anything else besides quartz movements, honestly. Maybe I'm just a little bit ignorant there. So I can't tell you that this is a great movement, that this carries great value for money. I can't tell you that it's crap, that it has problems, nothing like that. Again, I just have no opinions on it outside of, I can show you the crown action here. We have pleasant winding. I mean, it feels almost exactly the same as a Sellita or an ETA. I don't feel like I'm going to cross thread it or anything like that. It screws down nicely. So just take that for whatever you value it as. I have really no comments on the movement outside of the specs and the dimensions. Now, lastly, as we wrap up the video, let me mention that the bezel action here on these prototypes is not representative of the production versions that will be available in Q1 of 2022. So I can give you a sample of the bezel. I mean, it sounds nice. It's a little bit stiff. It takes a little bit more torque than I would like to make the changes in between positions. And so I do know that Tuseno is going to fine tune that and get it to their liking for the production version. But again, just keep in mind, this is a prototype, and that's not necessarily representative of what you're going to get in the final product. But just in summation here, it's a sharp looking micro brand. I like the fact that it's original. I think it's a great addition at that $600 price segment. Excellent bracelet, excellent dial details, excellent BGW9 lume, great light play, presence. I think there is a lot of strengths here to this release. A few shortcomings, again, with the anti-reflective treatment, with that ghost date position. And hopefully you guys feel like I've been fair and balanced here in the presentation. Not too positive, not too negative, and that you have a good idea of what this watch is all about. And again, links will be in the description. Thank you very much for watching today, guys. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.